Hello, I'm Kurma and welcome. In this series, we're going to show you how to cook a wide variety of international vegetarian cuisine from over 30 countries. This edition, we're going to show you how to prepare the first of a series of 3 North Indian lunches, including sauteed rice with poppy seeds, yellow split pea soup with pumpkin, cauliflower and potato supreme, and a creamy condensed milk saffron rice pudding. So, let's begin. Rice is the staple food of 3/4 of the world's population. It's easy to grow, inexpensive, almost always available, and nutritionally it complements the protein in other foods. It's also very versatile. In fact, there are thousands of different ways of preparing rice. I'm going to show you now how to prepare a sauteed basmati rice with poppy seeds. It's a very popular dish when we serve this at our restaurant in Melbourne. It has a subtle crunch and flavour of poppy seeds, and what people really like about it is that all the grains of rice are separate. That's because we saute the rice before we boil it. Let's have a look at the ingredients here. We've got 1 cup of basmati rice that's been washed, drained and dried, 2 cups of water, 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of fresh lemon juice, 6 teaspoons of ghee or clarified butter, and 1.5 teaspoons of poppy seeds. Now we'll need 2 pots to prepare this rice dish, 1 to saute the rice grains and 1 to bring the water to the boil. Let's put our flame on here and put our water in our pot straight away. It's good to get the water on early, so it's boiling by the time the rice is ready. All we'll need to put in our water at this stage is our salt and our lemon juice. The lemon juice not only adds a subtle flavour, but it helps to keep the rice grains separate, which is very important for this dish. And over here in this pot, turn on the flame, not maybe so high. Let's add our ghee and our poppy seeds. We'll heat up our ghee for a few seconds, and then we'll add our poppy seeds. Now, this sautéing process helps to bring out the flavour of the poppy seeds. They only need to be sautéed up to this point. They start to pop and crackle, and then we're going to add the rice. Okay, here we go. Now the rice grains and the poppy seeds have to be sautéed together, and this brings out the best in this rice dish. I like to use a wooden spoon, and gentle stirring action does the job. In fact, you'll have to stir the rice grains until they go a whitish colour. This indicates that the rice grains are sufficiently roasted, at which time you can add the boiling water. So notice how we've got the boiling water on and the rice grains cooking simultaneously. Now, after a minute or two, the rice grains will go whitish like this. At this point in time, it's time to add the water. Now you need to stir the rice just a little bit to make sure all the poppy seeds and the rice grains are off the side of the pot, like so. Turn your flame down to a simmer, place the lid on top, and come back in about 15 to 20 minutes. Let's have a look at our rice now, shall we? It's cooked to perfection. Just have a look at these rice grains. They're fluffy as anything. The grains are all separate. If you're not sure whether the rice is done, take 1 grain of rice and squeeze it between your thumb and forefinger. If there's no little white core inside, the rice is cooked. I like to serve my rice while it's still hot and fluffy. The hotter the better. So let's get it onto our decorative platter and serve it out. A nice, hot, fluffy batch of basmati rice, sautéed to perfection with poppy seeds, and a sprig of lemon does the job. Here's a dish from northwestern India, Gujarat state, yellow split pea soup with pumpkin. Yellow split peas are a type of dhal. A dhal is any type of split bean, pea or lentil. Dhals are a valuable source of protein to a vegetarian. Yellow split peas themselves are very cheap, economical to use in the kitchen. They're easy to digest. Let's have a look at some of the ingredients here in our yellow split pea soup with pumpkin. Over here we have yellow split peas themselves. These are the yellow split peas that have been soaked overnight in hot water. Minimum 5 hours is okay. Over here we have a batch of yellow split peas that haven't been soaked yet. Let's have a closer look now at some of our other ingredients. 1.5 teaspoons of minced fresh ginger, 2 teaspoons of hot green chilli that have been minced, 1 bay leaf, half of a teaspoon of turmeric powder, 2 tablespoons of ghee or clarified butter, 1 cup of pumpkin that have been seeded, peeled and diced into half-inch cubes, 1 teaspoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of fresh lime juice, a teaspoon of black mustard seeds, 1 teaspoon of cumin seeds, 1/4 teaspoon of fenugreek seeds, 1/4 teaspoon of yellow asafoetida powder, 6 curry leaves, small dried curry leaves, a tablespoon of brown sugar, and 2 tablespoons of chopped fresh parsley. We've also got 6.5 cups of water that's come to the boil, and into that water we're going to put our split peas. Remember, these split peas were soaked overnight. I started off with 1 cup of split peas, and now they've expanded to about 2.25. So the split peas go into the water. Along with the split peas goes some of our other ingredients. First of all, our ginger, like so. Sticking to the spoon there a little bit. We've got some green chilies that have been chopped up. We've got 1 bay leaf and a teaspoon of turmeric. Now you have to bring the split peas, the water and those initial spices to the boil in a heavy duty pot and allow them to cook for about 1 hour to 1.5 hours or until the split peas become soft, smooth and creamy. Then you can add the pumpkin and the rest of the seasonings. So we'll come back in about 1 hour and see how the split peas have progressed. Well, here I am, and here's the dhal, and it's looking beautiful. Let's have a stir. Whoa, you can't see any split peas anymore. They've all melted away. It's like a beautiful thick puree. Well, let's put our pumpkin in now, shall we? Give it a quick stir. Well, let's come back in about 10 minutes and have a look at our pumpkins. They should be nice and soft. While we're on the subject of pumpkins, let's have a look at some of our specimens here. I used a kabocha pumpkin for this dish, a beautiful, sweet, full-bodied flavoured pumpkin. If you can't get a hold of a kabocha, then try butternut squash, or perhaps dark or light acorn squash, or you could use a banana squash. You could even use the traditional Halloween pumpkin. It also has a very sweet flavour. You know, it's interesting to note that surveys have shown that the amount of water needed to produce 10 pounds of steak is the amount of water that the average household uses in 1 year. And that's 15 times the amount of water required to produce the same amount of protein from split peas. That's an amazing fact. Anyway, let's check out our pumpkin pieces now in the dhal and see how they look. Let's take our little chopstick here and press one of these pieces of pumpkin, and oh yes, it's butter soft. What we're going to do now is add our lemon juice and our salt. Now it's time for our final seasoning. Over here in our cast iron pot, we've got some clarified butter, ghee, which we're heating up. Now, the idea is that we're going to extract the flavour of the following spices by sautéing them in the ghee. First of all, in goes some mustard seeds. When you sauté mustard seeds, you'll find that they will start to crackle and pop. That means that the flavour is coming out of them and it's ready to add the next ingredients, which is the cumin seeds. Just wait for them to crackle a little bit, and in goes the cumin seeds. Right. Followed by fenugreek, asafoetida, and some curry leaves. Sometimes you have to lift it up a little bit above the flame in order that they don't burn. Now let's bring this over to the soup for a final explosive seasoning. There it is. Now that's injected all those delicious flavours of spices right there into the soup. Now all we have to add is some brown sugar and a little bit of fresh herbs, parsley, and we've got ourselves a beautiful soup, yellow split pea soup with pumpkin. All that it requires now is it's ladled into our beautiful decorative soup bowl. And there we have it. Yellow split pea soup with pumpkin. Gobi aloo bhaji, cauliflower and potato supreme, is a good example of North Indian cooking. North Indian cuisine is famous for its full-bodied and nourishing flavours, incorporating the warmth of spices such as cayenne pepper, ginger and black pepper. Actually, this particular dish that we're making is cauliflower chunks and potatoes which have been sauteed, deep fried in ghee and folded with yogurt and dry spices. Actually, when I make this dish for special festivals and feasts, the guests always go wild over it. It's usually the first one to run out. Actually, the vegetables are deep fried in clarified butter or ghee. This is a nice sample here of some homemade ghee that I made. Notice its beautiful golden colour. Actually, ghee is actually the golden essence of butter. When you heat butter and drive off the protein solids, you end up with this beautiful, fine, pure, nutty oil, which is ideal for sautéing, braising, shallow and deep frying. It's a source of concentrated energy and essential fatty acids. It's also high in fat-soluble vitamins, especially vitamin A. Let's have a look at our ingredients here, shall we? We've got 2 large baking potatoes. These have been peeled, cut into 1-inch cubes, rinsed and dried very thoroughly. We've got a medium-sized cauliflower. This has been cut into nice little florets. And over here on our spice plate, we've got 1/4 teaspoon of coarsely ground black pepper. We've got 1/2 teaspoon of ginger powder, 1/2 teaspoon of turmeric powder. We've got 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. We've got 1 teaspoon of salt. We've got 1 cup of fresh yogurt and a tablespoon of chopped fresh coriander leaves. Now the first thing we're going to do is deep fry our potatoes over here in our wok of ghee, which is about 2 inches deep, and the ghee temperature is 190 degrees Celsius, that's 375 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the ideal temperature for deep frying our vegetables. So let's pop them in straight away, shall we? And here we go. You can gently stir these around for a few seconds and let them deep fry for about 5 to 10 minutes or until they're golden brown. I think our potatoes are done here. They're golden brown. They respond favourably to the stab of our little knife here. So we'll take them out. Actually, there's nothing quite like the flavour of deep fried potatoes cooked in ghee. It's really a higher taste. What we'll do now is deep fry our cauliflowers in a similar fashion. Now these cauliflowers need a little less prodding. I've found that when you deep fry cauliflowers, if you move them around too much in the ghee, they tend to fall apart. So I generally like to cook them with the least amount of manipulation. As I mentioned, ghee is the ideal cooking medium, and you don't have to throw it away after you've used it. Ghee actually keeps for 3 months in a cool, dry place, or 6 months when frozen. It's even been said that ghee, after 10 years, becomes medicinal. And let's have a look at our cauliflowerettes here. A gentle stab. Ooh, cooked to perfection. Okay, out they come. We're going to remove them from the ghee and mix up our yogurt sauce for the final touches. Over here, we've got 1 cup of plain yogurt. We've got our black peppercorns that have been crushed, our ginger powder, turmeric powder, cayenne pepper, our teaspoon of salt, fresh coriander leaves. Mix it all up to a nice smooth sauce, like so. Let's add our cauliflower pieces, our potato pieces, stir it all in. And that's just about it. You can serve it straight away. Fresh is best. If you like to keep it a little longer, you can put it in the oven, a warm oven, for about half an hour and it'll be fine, especially if you cover it. And there we have it. Cauliflower and potato supreme. Gobi aloo bhaji. Creamy saffron condensed milk rice pudding is a recipe which is over 5,000 years old. The ingredients for this are mentioned in the ancient Sanskrit classic literature known as the Puranas, where it is known as kheer. And it is mentioned there also that this dish has been offered in temples for thousands and thousands of years. It basically just consists of rice and milk, to which saffron is added halfway through, and it is sweetened at the end. It's all cooked down to a sumptuous, creamy rice pudding. Let's have a look at some of the ingredients that it contains here. We've got 2 litres of fresh whole milk. We've got a little over half of a cup of short grain rice. We've got a large pinch of high grade saffron. And we've got 3/4 of a cup of sugar. The first thing you're going to have to do here to prepare sweet rice is to wash your rice. Let's do that straight away by taking it over to the sink. I'm going to show you a very effective method of washing your rice here. Fill up a bowl with water, put a sieve in it, tip your rice into the sieve, slush it all around. You'll notice the water gets a little cloudy. That's good because you're getting rid of all that extra rice starch which is in there, which we don't really want for this dish. Give it a good slush, that's probably done enough. Shake it out so there's no extra water in the sieve. Like so. And we'll bring it over to our other sieve here near the pot. The first thing we're going to do is add our milk to our pot. I like to use a large size pot for this in order that you can bring the milk to a full boil and it won't boil over the top. Like so. Let's add our rice. And turn on our flame. Now, what's required is a little bit of patience. You have to stir the rice for about 15 minutes for a start until it comes to the boil, after which we're going to add our saffron threads. And then it requires slow, rhythmic stirring. I like to put on a tape and relax when I'm making my sweet rice. It also adds to the quality of the finished product. Consciousness is a very important item when you're cooking. So give it a good stir and wait for it to come to the boil and then keep stirring. It's been 15 minutes since the milk came to the boil here. I think it's time to add the saffron. You'll notice actually after a few minutes that saffron starts to do its job. Saffron is actually quite a unique spice, as well as being the world's most expensive spice. And by the way, cheap saffron doesn't exist. It also has the ability, the rather unique ability, of being able to dye an unmistakably yellow colour, hundreds of thousands of times its own weight. So just a few strands of saffron do a remarkable job. You'll find at the end your scrumptious saffron rice pudding is a beautiful yellow colour. How's your hand feeling? My hand's feeling fine. I've been stirring it the whole time. Well, practically. I know someone who used to cook their sweet rice down for 7 hours. Honestly. She used to cook it halfway and then she used to add more milk and then cook it down some more and then add more milk and continue like that. And eventually all the rice would completely disappear. That's actually one way of cooking sweet rice when you've got lots of time to spare. You can actually get away with stirring it every now and then, but you do have to really be careful not to burn your sweet rice. Here's our creamy condensed saffron sweet rice after about 40 minutes. Well, it's just about time to add the sweetener. Here we go. You notice that's white sugar. I know white sugar isn't necessarily the most acceptable thing to use, but practically speaking, it's the only thing which doesn't curdle your milk. I've used brown sugar before and raw sugar, and it's actually made the milk curdle. Sometimes we have to make a few exceptions. Well, that just about wraps it up for this batch of sweet rice. I'm going to turn off the flame. And, oh, by the way, sweet rice should be served icy cold. I have a batch that I cooked last night over here in the fridge. I'm going to show you this. This is absolutely remarkable. It's so rich and creamy, and the taste is just unbelievable. It's really something which will amaze your guests. Here, have a close look at this. Look how rich and creamy it is. Well, there are certainly so many nice things that you can get from the cow, but creamy sweet rice is probably one of the best of them. Creamy condensed milk saffron rice pudding. Here. Well, that's it for this edition of Cooking with Kurma. I do hope that you've enjoyed preparing these dishes as much as I've enjoyed sharing them with you. Happy and healthy eating.